There's no aspect of the human story that we can't get to through the things that people wore. It speaks to individuals and their place in society, the way others view them and the way they view themselves.
Clothing is a continuous part of our lives as humans, and they can tell you so much about people's lives and the world that they come from.
In this city, tailors are the largest trade. We estimate in the early 1770s a few dozen, perhaps even upwards of 60 or 70 tailors in town. That number is a very good indication of the quantity of work that is coming to our shop. It's also a very good indication of the affordability of the work.
It is not special or expensive to have clothing made for oneself in this period in history. It is truly as mundane to people of the past as having your haircut is for you today. Something you have to have done, and best done when it's done by a trained professional who can work quickly and affordably. And so in this time period, everyone is the customer of the tailor at some point in their life. Rich or poor, free or enslaved, Native Americans and new arriving Americans here to the colonies are all customers of the tailor.
Many people associate our trade of tailoring with the act of sewing. It's really about the work of cutting and fitting clothing to the body. Our work is bespoke, meaning every garment is spoken for. The customer comes to choose the fabrics and trims, and then we measure and pattern and cut and fit specific to that individual's needs, the demands of the fabric, and of course the style of garment that they have asked for. There are the other clothing trades, milliners and mantua makers, hatters, glovers, shoemakers, and those garments such as shirts that could be bought ready-made from the stores.
One must know how to sew to be a tailor, but only knowing how to sew doesn't make one a tailor. We serve typically a 7-year-long apprenticeship in this time to learn how to measure the body. From those measurements, create a pattern upon the fabric, cut with economy, so the valuable textile of the customer is not wasted, and then know the steps of construction so well that we don't have to stop and make every stitch a conscious decision. Speed is the only key to profitability in something as mundane as making clothing. We can document the names of more than 1,100 tailors here in Virginia across the entire 18th century, and only 4 of those names are women, such that a woman working within the trade is defined not as a tailor, but as a tailoress, or a female tailor.
And in this city in the 18th century, the tailors that we know of by name are all free, white, and male, with one possible exception of a woman named Judith Blunt, who we believe was most likely the widow of a tailor and continued in the practice of his work after his death. Although clothing enslaved men and women was a substantial part of every tailor's work in 18th century Virginia, we do not have record of enslaved people working as tailors in Williamsburg. We do have reference to enslaved men working as tailors on some plantations, and both enslaved and free black men working in other cities like Boston and Philadelphia. I think it's very important to remember that people here in the 18th century were part of a global world. The goods on these shelves came from across that world, and though they arrived here through England and on English ships, it was not forgotten that people here are connected to others, other places, other ideas through the textiles and garments that they wore every day.
The plain and everyday is the bread and butter of the tailor's work in the 18th century. The fine and fancy, in a time when the rate of labor is fixed, makes us no more profit than the plain and everyday, since even the wealthiest person in the world needs more plain and everyday than the finest, fanciest things we could possibly make. Our profit is in those things first.
During the Revolution, every tailor in this community became very deeply involved in supplying Virginia's army. While uniforms perhaps would be the most expected thing for us to make, tents actually took first priority. Every soldier enlisting comes with some clothing, so that can wait, but they don't come with shelter. And getting the army in the field, covered and protected, was imperative to the cause. Hunting shirts became the first uniform of Virginia's army, and tailors in town quickly picked up that work as well. Every trade should be defined by the different skills used to work in it. But one skill that is common to every trade is a sense of business and the ability to manage books and money. I think it's very easy to forget that as working tradespeople, we're not just making objects, but we're hoping to make a living.
Within our study of the 18th century tailoring trade, we study thousands of garments that survive from this time, millions of pages of documents, tens of thousands of images, and what's been found archaeologically in order to try to reconstruct this 18th century trade.
I think it's important to preserve this trade because garments, either new or old, without people, aren't really much more than rags. Our work helps to re-embody the making and the wearing, and provide context and a deeper understanding of the people of the past through the things that were most familiar to them.